a $100 million passenger jet disappeared in China. No flight records, no radar trace, just gone. French intelligence stayed quiet for 20 years. When they finally spoke, the truth was worse than anyone imagined. Set up to 0:10 to 1 o'clock in the early 2000s. Airbus delivered one of their first A320s to China. Brand new aircraft, cutting-edge technology, the kind of jet that should be flying hundreds of passengers across Asia every single day. But it never flew a single commercial route. The plane vanished from every tracking system. No passenger manifests, no routing data, nothing. French manufacturers watched their nearly $100 million technological masterpiece simply evaporate. They called it a ghost plane. For 2 decades, nobody talked about what happened to it. And then in 2021, former French intelligence chief Alain Julet appeared in a documentary and broke his silence. The ghost plane had been found, sitting in a field in Jiangsu province. But the discovery raised more questions than it answered. Patrick Pelloux, former vice chairman of economic intelligence at Airbus, explained what happened during those missing years. According to his testimony, the aircraft was systematically dismantled, torn apart piece by piece, every component studied, measured, documented. The goal wasn't maintenance, it was replication. Fast forward to today. China unveils the C919, their first large commercial passenger jet. They call it domestically engineered. A decade in the making. Their answer to Boeing and Airbus. Pelloux points to what he calls striking similarities between the C919 and that missing A320. Same dimensions, same configuration, same design philosophy. When asked why Airbus never formally accused China, Pelloux's answer is brutally honest. Put yourself in the shoes of the CEO of Airbus. Is it going to do any good to tell them you stole a plane from us? That's not right, but saying it out loud, that kills billion-dollar contracts. That ends partnerships. Some truths are too expensive to speak. Here's where the story takes a strange turn. Despite everything, despite the alleged copying, despite the technology transfer, despite a decade of development, the C919 is failing in a way nobody predicted. Right now, the global aviation market is in crisis. Boeing is collapsing under safety failures and production chaos. Airbus can't build planes fast enough to meet demand. If you order a new 737 MAX or a 320 today, you're waiting over a decade for delivery. Airlines are desperate. The backlog keeps growing. This should be COMAC's moment. The C919 should be selling to everyone. And when you look at the order book, it seems like it is. Over 850 orders across 24 customers for a brand new aircraft from an unproven manufacturer. Those numbers look impressive. But here's the catch. 23 of those 24 customers are Chinese airlines or Chinese leasing companies. And the Chinese government owns most of them. They also own COMAC essentially. The Chinese government is ordering planes from itself. Not a single international airline has placed an order. Not one. Even small regional carriers in Asia and Africa, lines that are desperate for aircraft and usually willing to take risks on cheaper alternatives, won't touch it. Why? The C919 is a clean sheet, 21st century design. It should outperform the 737 MAX and a 320, which are built on airframe designs from the 1960s and 80s. Modern aerodynamics, contemporary engineering. On paper, it should be better, but it's not. And the reason exposes something uncomfortable about China's manufacturing capabilities. 91% of the C919 is made by non-Chinese companies. Despite being the world's factory, China can't produce the advanced components needed for a modern passenger jet. COMAC has been forced to rely on Western suppliers for engines, avionics, landing gear, flight management systems, basically everything except the fuselage. And here's the problem. Those suppliers don't trust COMAC, given China's documented history of reverse engineering and intellectual property theft. Many refuse to provide their latest technology. Instead, they offer previous generation systems, proven, but not cutting edge. The engines tell the whole story. The C919 uses the LEAP-1C engine. It sounds advanced. The LEAP family powers both the 737 MAX and a 320neo, delivering 15% better fuel efficiency than older engines. But according to a Forbes investigation, the LEAP-1C is a LEAP engine in name only. Internally, it's been significantly The architecture has more in common with the CFM56 platform from the 1970s than with its modern siblings. The result, the C919's range is just 3,000 miles. That's significantly less than its Western competitors. For airlines planning routes, that limitation matters a lot, but performance isn't the only problem. The C919 faces two challenges that are arguably even more devastating: reliability questions and supply chain vulnerability. Boeing and Airbus didn't become dominant overnight. They spent decades building relationships with suppliers across the globe: Japan, Britain, France, Canada, Italy, Germany. These partnerships created stable, redundant supply chains and access to cutting-edge technology. The C919 depends on many of those same Western suppliers, but it doesn't have the relationships, or the trust, or the backup options. When the US added COMAC to a list of companies allegedly supporting China's military, it restricted the manufacturer's access to American technology and funding. Suddenly, critical supply chains became uncertain, and even if those restrictions disappeared tomorrow, there's another problem. The C919 has no global support infrastructure. Airlines spend 10 to 15% of their operating costs on maintenance and repairs. They need reliable access to spare parts, trained technicians, repair facilities. If a plane breaks down in Frankfurt or Sao Paulo, you can't wait 3 weeks for parts to ship from Shanghai. Delays cost money, lots of it. The credibility gap goes deeper than theory. Chinese manufactured aircraft have faced real-world problems. Myanmar's Air Force recently grounded most, if not all, of its JF-17 fighter jets due to cascading technical failures. Meanwhile, the F-16, which the JF-17 was supposed to rival, has operated reliably across the globe for decades. That reputation gap, it doesn't close quickly. Maybe you're thinking, okay, but COMAC can learn. They'll scale up, they'll improve. And you'd be right to think that. China has massive financial resources, a huge domestic market, proven capabilities and complex manufacturing. Both Boeing and Airbus executives have publicly said they view China as a genuine long-term threat. But here's the reality check. Since production began in 2011, COMAC has completed just 10 aircraft. That's less than one plane per year. Boeing and Airbus each build more than one complete aircraft every single day. COMAC has ambitious plans. They projected building 7 planes in 2024. They hope to reach 150 annually by 2030. If they hit that target, which is far from guaranteed, still need until the late 2030s just to clear their current backlog. Read that again. Even with optimistic projections, airlines ordering a C919 today wouldn't see delivery until the late 2030s. That completely erases any advantage of having a smaller backlog than Boeing or Airbus. None of this means COMAC should be dismissed. Underestimating China's long-term potential would be foolish. They have resources, determination, and a massive captive market to refine their product. But there's a pattern here: the ghost plane in the field, the reliance on Western technology, the copy and undercut approach. It's a strategy that can catch you up, but it can't make you a leader. The C919 exists today because of that. Airbus A320 dismantled in secret 2 decades ago, but that same approach, taking shortcuts, reverse engineering, depending on others' innovation, is exactly why the C919 can't compete globally. The Boeing-Airbus duopoly isn't invincible. It's shown cracks. The market is desperate for alternatives. The opportunity is real, but breaking that duopoly requires something China hasn't fully committed to yet: decades of authentic innovation, indigenous technology development, building trust through reliability, not copying through espionage. The question isn't whether China can eventually challenge Western aviation dominance. It's whether they're willing to stop looking for ghost planes to start building something the world actually wants to fly.